Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for our Village of Alsip committee meeting. Today is October 26th, 2020, and we're going to call this meeting in order at 7:30 p.m. Can you call the roll, please?
Yes. Trustee Delzo?
Here.
Trustee Zielinski?
Here.
Trustee Juarez? Here. Trustee McLaughlin is absent this evening. Trustee Murphy?
Here.
Trustee Neva Esparza? Here. Mayor Ryan?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. I'd like to take our meeting a little bit out of order to start the meeting, only because we've got somebody on a Zoom call to make a presentation regarding the state of the streets for the village. Trustee Juarez, do you want to introduce? This will be under your committee for Public Work and Boat Launch.
Yes. I have a presentation for 2020 State of the Streets Pavement Analysis Management by Gordona and Associates, Inc., Pavement Engineering Division.
So Mike Frater's here as well. Mike, Mike, do you want to grab a microphone maybe? Or if you want to stand by the mic, whichever. Wherever you want to do.
Kurt, are you on now?
I am here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're looking at the state of the streets, Kurt.
Perfect. Very good. Let me know when you'd like me to go.
Go
Good.
ahead, Kurt.
Please go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. Thank you all for taking the time to allow us to present this evening. The purpose of this presentation is to provide an overview of the CMAP Pavement Management Program project that Gordona and Associates successfully completed for the Village of Alsip. Just to give a little bit of background on this project, CMAP about 2 years ago began a pavement management program to support municipalities throughout the Chicagoland region. And the purpose of the project was basically to assist agencies in getting a handle on their roadway infrastructure and kind of change practices from what has historically been a reactionary approach to pavement management throughout the region, meaning waiting for roads to get a lot of potholes in them and then just resurfacing them or reconstructing them. But to change that practice and focus more on pavement preservation and keeping roadways that are in good condition, and trying to address those, kind of a bit of a paradigm shift within the region. So in order to support that, the CMAP project included for each participating municipality the implementation of a pavement management system, a comprehensive pavement condition survey of all of the roadways within the village, and then running several analyses to determine the impact of the village's existing funding level on future pavement conditions over the next 5 years or so, and then a few other analyses to determine what level of funding would be required to maintain the village's current pavement conditions, modestly increase overall pavement conditions, and finally to eliminate the village's existing maintenance and rehabilitation backlog. As part of the project, also, we put together a list of recommendations for roadways that are candidates for pavement preservation, as well as pavement rehabilitation projects. Pavement management, just to step back for a second, is a more objective method for assessing current pavement conditions and predicting future conditions, and then determining the appropriate level of rehabilitation for each roadway within the village. In determining the appropriate level of rehabilitation, we're also attempting to approximate when that rehabilitation activity should be performed and approximately how much it will cost to perform the appropriate rehabilitation activity. The pavement management system that CMAP chose as part of this project is the paver software system. The paper software is currently developed and continuously developed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers based in Urbana-Champaign, down at the University of Illinois. The Corps of Engineers has a cooperative research agreement with the university, and the paper software development began back in the late 70s, early 80s, and is over 3 decades of development has occurred. And the software is currently on version 7, and so we implemented paver software for the village. And here we can see a map of the village with the roadway conditions. This is all in the software for the village, and this was a deliverable that will be given to the village at the end of this project. As the first step in the project after we implemented the software was to perform a comprehensive pavement condition survey. We sent out one of our 3D pavement imaging systems to drive all of the roadways within the village. We collected downward imagery of the roads so that we could see the cracking on the roadways, how many potholes, how many different types of pavement distress were out there at the time of inspection. We also captured the bumpiness of the roads using our pavement profiler. That's basically how rough the roadways or the driver, anyone who's driving on the roadways experiences the road while they're driving. The information that we collected was put into an algorithm in the paver software to determine a pavement condition index. This is basically rating each roadway on a scale of 0 to 100, with 0 being a failed roadway and 100 being a roadway in excellent or amazing condition. Something that was just not necessarily resurfaced, but newly constructed. So we rated every roadway within the village on the scale from 0 to 100, and most importantly, the scale, when you have a roadway that is in 100 or 90 or 80, those roadways up here on the top, they're kind of above a 65 or so. And this graph here is showing the theoretical deterioration of a roadway. Any road that's above a 65 or so is a candidate for preventive maintenance and rehabilitation, basically pavement preservation. These are the roads that you want to keep in good condition. The roads down here that are below a 50 or so, these are roads that are candidates for typical resurfacing or reconstruction. Many roads within the village have been resurfaced many times. With each successive resurfacing, the life that the village gets out of each resurfacing project is a little bit less. And that's simply because when we resurface a roadway, we're not necessarily fixing any issues with the base materials or the subgrade, but we're just kind of putting a new asphalt layer on there. So that asphalt, each time a roadway is resurfaced, the supporting foundation is still damaged like it was prior to resurfacing, and so the new asphalt that's put on top might not last as long. But anyway, this area right in here, this orange area where we have roadways in a condition from 50 to 65, those roads are in the critical range where we're transitioning from preventive maintenance to more costly maintenance and rehabilitation, resurfacing and reconstruction. So we want to keep these roads, we want to extend the life of the roadways so that we keep them from dropping from kind of good condition down into poor condition at the bottom here. So, for example, within the village, here's Keeler Avenue. We found that to have a PCI at the time of inspection of 85. The roadway is in satisfactory condition, if not good condition. And you can see here there are a few cracks that need to be sealed. This roadway, even though it's in good condition, we don't want to forget about that road and just wait for it to deteriorate. We'd like to get out there now, do some pavement preservation activities, keep it in good condition. We have Costner Avenue here that has a PCI of 70. This is just a transition from satisfactory into fair condition. You can see that we have quite a bit of edge cracking along Costner Avenue. So coming out here, doing some edge patching, cleaning things up, sealing any other cracks that are out there, that will still help keep this road in good condition. So Keeler, Costner Avenue, these two roadways are candidates for preventive maintenance, less costly. We're not talking about resurfacing them. We're just talking about doing some localized repairs, and those roads will stay in good shape, hopefully, for a long time. If we jump down here to Knox Avenue, here we have a roadway that has a PCI value of 43. So this road is the lower end of poor. So we're getting into that resurfacing, maybe some patching, some structural patching. We can see a little bit of potholing here. But the road, it's not completely failed yet, but we need to do something more substantial than just patching and crack sealing. We need to go in, do some patching that goes all the way down to the subgrade, fix up some things here, then mill off the surface, and do an overlay on that road. Down here, the last example we have is 116th Street. We had a PCI score of 27 out here. We don't know when this road was last resurfaced. We didn't have records available at the time of the implementation. But we can see that there's significant pothole damage here. All of this pattern cracking shown here, that's what we call alligator cracking. That indicates structural failure of the roadway. So this road, depending on how much of the road is cracked up like this, as they're looking at it, it's a candidate for reconstruction at this point. So just so you get an idea, again, Keeler Avenue up here, we have PCI of 85. We're talking about doing relatively low-cost pavement preservation on this road. And then we have 116th Street down here, PCI of 27. We're looking at basically very expensive reconstruction. Bring that one back up to an acceptable level. With respect to the village's overall distribution of conditions, we found that there, of the 54.8 miles, or averaging the condition for those 54.8 miles managed by the village, the average condition is 55. That straddles the fair to poor criteria, so it's just barely averaging poor overall. You can see the distribution here. We have several roads, 5, 6, over 15 miles that are in good to fair condition. Then we have a spike here in poor condition, very poor, and then a few that are in serious condition. So what this means is that the average score is right in that critical range where we want to keep these roadways that are in fair, satisfactory, good condition, in good shape, and then start addressing some of these roads down here that are in serious, very poor condition, as well as addressing any roads that are in poor condition with localized patching, cleaning them up, and maybe doing a little bit of less costly rehabilitation on those roads before they get to that very poor and serious condition here. So again, we have an average for the village of 55, right in that critical range here. And we want to start doing some resurfacing, lower cost work on those roads before they deteriorate and get down here into this very poor serious condition. So as part of the project, we ran several budget analyses to kind of determine what level of funding is needed to keep things kind of where they're at, to improve them slightly, and then to really bring things up to great condition. We found that the existing we assumed that the existing level of funding is $480,000. In order to maintain overall current conditions, we're looking at almost doubling that to $840,000 based off of our analyses, and then to bring the average overall condition from about a 55 up to 65. We're looking at an increase, essentially tripling the village's existing budget from 480 up to 1.5 million. And if we really wanted to address all of the issues over the next 5 years and get all of the roadways network level average up above 70, we're looking at 2.3 million per year. So here we can see the impact of these different funding scenarios on the village's overall roadway conditions. We see here with the assumed current funding level, we're dropping from a 55 down to a 47 overall condition at the end of 5 years. And if we were to just maintain conditions around the 55, here we get to a 54, increasing funding up to $840,000 per year. And then to really bring things up to 65 or so, we're looking at 1.5 million to get up to that level, and then to get rid of all of the unfunded resurfacing and reconstruction work within the village, looking at 2.3 million, and that would put the village at an overall condition score of about 74 at the end of that 5-year period. And to view the impact of these different funding scenarios on the, a 10-year period, not a 5-year. So we're looking at, here we see from 2020 to 2029, we can see that if we spent the 2.3 million over that 10-year period, we start at the end of 2020 with a $12 million backlog, and that goes all the way down to zero in 2028, 2029. If we continue with our current funding level of $480,000, we see that the backlog at the end of 2020 increases from $14 million all the way up to $24 million. So a backlog, you can think of this as the inheritance that you're passing on to the next generation at the end of this 10-year period. So with the current funding level just shy of $500,000 per year, we're looking at an increasing backlog. So there'll be a whole bunch of additional rehabilitation that needs to be done at the end of that 10-year period, and really not making a dent in that backlog, the current funding level. Even if we double the funding level up to about $840,000 per year and we maintain our overall conditions, that backlog is still increasing over the 10-year period. If we triple the current funding level up to $1.5 million and reach that PCI of 65 over the 10-year period, we do start to see that backlog start to decrease over that 10-year period. And here we can see the impact of funding on just a comparison of total cost for these different funding scenarios over that 10-year period. This is a little bit of financial voodoo here, but it drives home a point that I'm hoping to make here, which is if you treat the backlog at the end of the 10-year horizon that we're looking at here as a cost, we can see that with the current funding level of $480,000 per year, we're looking at over 10 years spending $4.8 million. At the end of that 10-year period, though, the backlog is $24.4 million. So the total cost, if we add the $4.8 million that's spent to the $24.4 million that remains, that needs still work that needs to be done, we're looking at a total cost to the village of about $29.2 million. And the overall average condition of the village's roadways we're anticipating and forecasting to be about 47. If, however, we spend $2.3 million per year over a 10-year period, we're looking at expenditures of $23.4 million with a backlog of 0. So our total cost, if we add the $23.4 million to the 0 backlog, we're down to $23.4 million. So comparing total cost to existing funding level versus a significant increase to eliminate the backlog of $29.2 million versus $23.4 million, which is a $6 million difference. And at the end of that 10-year period, the village's roadways would be significantly better, about a 74 or so. So the maintain current conditions funding level of 840, and then the increase the overall PCI to 65, overall conditions up to 65 and 1.5 million. Those total costs fall somewhere in between the current funding level and the backlog elimination. So in a perfect world, I realize 2.3 million is I mean that's shooting for the stars here, but that over the 10-year period, that's going to actually be a lesser cost to the village overall if that funding were available. So moving forward, keep this kind of, just to summarize kind of where we're at, strongly recommend that the village implement a pavement preservation program, crack sealing, localized patching, do that type of work as funding becomes available to keep those roads that are in good condition for as long as possible over the next several years. Given the fact that the current funding level for the village is below what's necessary or needed to kind of maintain things over the next 5 or 10 years, it's important that the village prioritize existing funding to maximize overall benefit to the residents. So basically, if given the choice between doing a road that only a few people are driving on versus a collector or an arterial road within the village, given the limited funding scenario, I strongly recommend that the village, put that money toward the roads that are more heavily trafficked. And of course, this goes without saying, increase funding for maintenance and rehabilitation projects. With the increase in MFT tax, hopefully additional funding will be coming through the state. However, with COVID, I kind of threw a curve, made that a little bit less of a cash this year. We'll see how this kind of plays out next year. But whatever can be done to increase funding for those maintenance rehabilitation projects is really good. And then understand too, this project just represents a snapshot of the village's conditions when they were surveyed earlier this year. And we're basing these forecasts off of one set of data at one point in time. These forecasts and predictions of future condition will improve with when the roadways get resurveyed, which we typically recommend every 2 to 3 years. So moving forward, we recommend that the village maintain the paver software, put more data in there, and hopefully we can then, down the road, improve the forecasts and making sure that what we're forecasting actually ties in with reality. So, very briefly, I'd like to acknowledge the Village of Alsip. Mike Prater really assisted with this project greatly and made this possible. Robinson Engineering, of course, provided invaluable input as well. And CMAP for funding the work. This is great, and I think it's a good first step for the municipalities participating. We also had Urban GIS do a bunch of mapping for us, and AE of course provided some project management for this effort. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and open it up to any questions.
Well, I'll tell you, this is Mayor Ryan. Great presentation. Obviously, you really did a great job of covering all the bases here for us. So is this, first off, is your study, is it complete on all of the Alsip streets? I know we've got like 52 miles of road here. Is there a complete study done now on this?
Yes.
There is, okay. Because obviously, I know you were picking out some streets. I know Keeler Street was just resurfaced like 3 years ago, so obviously it scored an 85, and we appreciate that. Some of the other points that you made yet, too, obviously, streets are a priority in every community, but the, I was going to say that pavement, I love the idea, your pavement condition index, your PCI that you have on everything, great scoring method in order for us to take a look at this, but I guess my biggest chore would be, as you recommended in there too, is to implement a pavement preservation program as well as increasing our funding, which I know it sounds great in theory, but it's a great goal to meet then too at the same time, because like you pointed out, if we maintain our current funding by adding, I know, Mike, 480,000 is roughly our MFT funding right now, right?
Correct.
Okay. So if we add 840,000 every year and maintain that under the current conditions, we'll save, as opposed to what we spend right now with roughly $480,000 a year. If we were to add 840 to that, we'd save $2 million over the course of 10 years, as you pointed out. There you go. I'm looking at that screen now. And then, as you said, if we were able to kick it up to 1.5 million, now we're saving $4 million. And certainly if we were to really get lucky, as you said, to eliminate the backlog, now we're saving almost $6 million from what we're doing right now over the course of the next 10 years. It's a great strategy, and obviously it's a goal that we can try and look at too. Unfortunately this year, as you mentioned too, the revenues we anticipated being down this year as everybody else did, so we actually reduced our spending significantly this year. It's mostly deferring capital costs, which we'll have to get back into next season yet then too, but is there any kind of application program, anything for what you're doing through CMAP, or is this just a free service, or is any kind I don't think we touched on that much.
Yeah, so this study, this analysis was actually funded by CMAP, Chicago Metropolitan Agency of Planning.
Right.
So it was of no cost to the village to do this. But the idea of this study is for us to put together a program where we do prioritize which streets should be done. We've already started to do some of the preventive maintenance with the crack sealing. You saw that on Costner Avenue
Sure.
and 122nd Street.
Okay. So obviously that's a goal for our board. I mean, we're monitoring this now, but he's obviously showing us the way to, reducing a backlog and obviously getting more work done then too at
Correct.
the same time.
So we'll continue to work with Kurt as we move forward, especially through the paver system. That's where we're going to put in our data for when we do resurface certain streets, and we'll upgrade everything as necessary.
Okay. That was mine. Anybody else have a question? Kurt, thank you very much for the presentation. Seriously, Do we have a copy of this at all, too, that we can keep in-house?
Yeah, he gave us one.
I didn't get one. Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. Kurt, thanks you again for joining us this evening, and I appreciate the work done by CMAP as well, too.
Thank you so much. It's been our pleasure.
Okay.
All the best. Thank
All
you.
right, have a great evening. Thank you.
Do they provide us the detail maps?
That's kind of where I was going at, Mike, was...
Yeah, not yet. They have not. Again, what you guys got is just kind of a brief glimpse into it, but there is a larger file that identifies each and every street and its rating. I can provide that at a later time.
Sir, we rely on your input as well as Robinson Engineering when we decide which streets every year that we attack. But if we can find some additional revenue, if we can get on one of these programs, it'd be great.
Right.
And pick up more of it and stuff then too, because there are so many streets. You know, it was nice to see. I thought we were going to score even worse. You know, because we try to put everything we can in these streets, and I get calls every day about it and so forth. And I can appreciate your ideas on the patch materials that we're doing, but obviously they need a lot of construction, some of these roads and stuff yet too. So they're old. I mean, you say, what's the life expectancy? 30 years, tops. I mean, at the stretching it.
On a new construction.
Yeah.
New constructed street, 20 to 25 years.
25 years.
On a resurfaced, 10 to 15.
And as he said, as he was suggesting too, is obviously your more traveled roads are the ones that you're looking at first, and that's why we usually pull the ones that we do all the time at then too.
This study, it helps us when we're prioritizing which streets to resurface each year. This is kind of like the data that will back that up as to why those streets are chosen over some of the others.
I like the scoring system. It's a great way to do it and stuff then too, and it's looked like a heck of a piece of equipment that they put together too to go around.
And that
all the
was done
streets.
actually last October.
Really, that was last year.
And they came in and they did every street, analyzed it, I think within 3 days.
I like the goal part of it though too. I mean, I know like I said, it sounds great in theory, but if we can muster up an extra $1 million, which again, it's kind of a pipe dream.
I think
but
the biggest challenge for us right now, and what we're looking to do mostly, is streets that have been resurfaced in the past 5 years. Those are the ones that we want to definitely get on with the crack sealing, trying to preserve those streets.
I know we did quite a bit. How much? I know we did a lot of crack sealing this year. How much did we do?
So we did Costner between 123rd to 119th, and then we did 122nd Street from Cicero to Central, and then Central from 122nd to 115th. And then we did Mayfield and Austin Avenue between 115th and 118th.
Okay.
So quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those were longer stretches, which is why we also contracted those streets out. That was a bit much for our crew to handle on its own, but.
Right. Anybody else have a question for Mr. Frater? Mike, thanks so much then too.
Thank
I appreciate it. Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Good job on that too, Mike. I know you meet with the county and all these guys. I see their cars out there all the time and that too. But no, good job in doing this. Thank you. Okay. All right, so we'll move on to officers' reports. I'll start with mine. First, obviously a hot topic in all of our lives right now is the COVID-19. I wanted to just share with you just the current surveillance data. I looked up today. Every 2 weeks, the Cook County Department of Public Health updates this information. And in Alsip right now, we had 627 confirmed cases in the last couple of weeks. 48 cases were reported just last week. And in the past 2 weeks, the information that they're sharing with us is that we are up 37.7% of confirmed cases over the past 14 days. I did check with Fire Chief Szynski today just to ask what the frequency is of our transports, and he said that transports have been low. We're only transporting maybe 2 people a month, as far as COVID confirmed cases that we know of and stuff then too. So that's the information I got, is that the frequency is down on that. So maybe more of these people are taking themselves to the hospitals and stuff like that. So
we're up 37% just here in Alsip?
Yes. Next, we had the mitigation program that the governor he did a press conference today at 2:30, and he's actually going back to the Region 10 mitigation for the south suburbs, meaning that bars and restaurants and social gatherings are going to be reduced. So starting tomorrow night at midnight, all bars will need to close at 11 p.m. and may reopen no earlier than 6 a.m. No indoor service. All bar patrons should be seated at tables outside. No ordering or seating or congregating at the bar. Tables still need to be 6 feet apart, even outside. No standing or congregating indoors or outdoors while waiting for a table or exiting. No dancing or standing indoors. Reservations still required for parties. Restaurants, all restaurants, again, 11 p.m. they need to close with no indoor seating, and the same criteria. And then meetings and social events and gatherings, again, limit to the lesser of 25 guests or 25% of the overall room capacity. No party buses, and gaming and casinos need to close at 11 p.m. and again are limited to a 25% capacity. Organized group activities, no change. All sports guidance effective August 15th, 2020 remains in effect. Outdoor activities not included in the above exposure settings continue per the DECO guidance. So again, it's unfortunate. I feel horrible, but we do ask that the bars and restaurants comply with the governor's request to be closed, as he's asking at the and not just closing, but obviously under these restrictions right here then too. Next I had, if some of you may remember, some of you were on the board at the time, back August 21st, 2017, the car lot up here at 122nd and Cicero, Carland it's called. He called last week. He spoke with my assistant Becky Smith, and the house that he had asked to be rezoned and so forth back on that date it's his house. He rents it out. Apparently the house is empty, and he once again would like to ask if the board would reconsider letting him operate his office out of that house. It's like a block, half a block east of Cicero Avenue. The address is actually 4735 West 122nd Street. Back in August of 2017, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted favorably to let him have this rezoned. The board at the time voted 2-4, and the motion failed to allow that to happen. Trustee Zelinski, you were here at the time, Dalzell, and Trustee Juarez, and Trustee McLaurin's not here tonight. But rather than, obviously we're familiar with the scenario. Did anybody want to rehear this case? Anybody want to reconsider that case? And I told him we would get back to him.
What was the vote for planning and zoning again, back then?
Or two.
You have
What was that?
5-0?
I think it was
In favor
unanimous.
or against?
Oh, no, that's, on this case?
For planning and zoning,
Planning and zoning.
they were in favor of it.
Yeah, I believe it was, I'm looking here real quick. Hold on one second. Item F. Yeah, all we had on her, under that report was, at the time, was Trustee Zelinski was the Planning and Zoning chairperson, request approval of an ordinance rezoning the property from R1 to B1 for the sale of used cars. The board and Attorney Kankar discussed this ordinance and what the owner needs in order for the ordinance to be considered. And then we took a vote, and I believe the Planning and Zoning Commission, I don't have the notes here from them, but I believe It was favorable on their side. I don't have the exact number, but I remember it was favorable. It might even have been like 5-1 or something like that, but I remember it was majority favored, and our vote came in 2-4, and it failed.
Would the minutes be out for that to find out
I get it right here.
2017, yes.
what the reasoning was that the board turned that down?
All it said in here was just that trustee, okay, so I've got the minutes right here. So item F, which was pulled, approval of an ordinance rezoning property at 4735 122nd Street from R1 Residential District to B1 Business District and granting a special use for the sale of used cars. Trustee Dalzell stated his concern of allowing a business in a residential district and what future problems that could occur with the rezoning. In other words, by introducing a business into a residential area. Motion to approve the ordinance, again, what I just read, for the sale of used cars was made by Trustee Pierce, seconded by Trustee Juarez. Roll call was taken. Voting yes was Trustee McGreal and Zelinski. Voting no was Trustees Dalzell, Pierce, Juarez, and McLaughlin. So it failed 4-2. And Trustee McLaughlin asked Attorney Kankar what, if any, action needs to be done towards the Plan and Zoning Commission. And Mr. Kankar explained that there was no further action needed since the board is the last to take action in the process of approval or denial. So that it just died with that. So again, the gentleman who owns the car lot called and asked if we'd reconsider, and I just said we'd bring it up in tonight's committee meeting, and we'd let him know if we wanted to reconsider. Probably a fair way of doing it is getting a consensus, Madam Clerk.
I was trying to pull up the meeting minutes from Planning and Zoning.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Was that in October of 2017, or was that the one prior to that?
The meeting was in August 21st to 17, so that meeting took place before that.
The planning and zoning is immaterial. They've already voted on the issue, and they were
Right.
in agreement of it. It's whether this board wants to consider the rezoning again or not.
Right.
And had it been just a simple matter of them using the residence as an office, store their paperwork or pen transactions, I don't know that I would be opposed. But his plan was ultimately knocking down the residence that's presently on 122nd and Cicero,
Right.
the White House, to use that to increase the size of his lot. He had also talked about putting some of the cars on that residence property. So he was truly going to make that all commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was just unfair to the residents in the area. You've got the church right across the street. If I'm sitting there in my single-family home or multi-family home, and then all of a sudden the house that was alongside of me got turned into a supermarket, it's a big change of circumstance for the people who are living there. And I get that he owns the property, but he bought it as a single-family house. Maybe his intent and his hopes were to sit there and have that commercial, but that's not what it was licensed for. That's not how he bought it. It's what he wanted to make it.
Understood. And actually, and you make a great point as well, too. That's not how you bought your house. Like you said, I think we talked about that back then, too. You bought your house as a residential home. You didn't want to locate yourself in a business area and so forth. The minutes, actually got those here from the Plan and Zoning meeting. This was on July 12th, 2017. Meeting was called to order at 7:30, and basically the petitioner, Sahid Fakari, owner of Carland, was sworn in and so forth. And if approved, he wants to, as Trustee Dalzell just mentioned, he would want to demolish the current former framed house that serves as an office on his car lot at 12201 Cicero. And discussion followed with the commission asking the gentleman, Mr. Fakari, if he was prepared to pave the area where his current office stood, and he said he would be prepared to provide some off-street parking He would be prepared to provide some off-street parking for the customers. Two representatives of the Zion Church directly north of Carland were present at the hearing. They stated that occasionally Carland customers use their church lot, and sometimes car haulers use their lot as well. Fakari stated that he would provide 5 spots, one of which is for a handicap accessible, etc., and reminded the village the prohibition about parking cars for sale on village streets and conducting auto repair at the existing garage. A resident who lives on McDaniels also voiced his concern about a business being constructed in what is now known as a residential zone. Mr. Fakari had not provided a paid tax bill prior to the meeting, but stated his property taxes were current, and some research of the Cook County Assessor's Office showed the taxes paid through the first installment at that time. The commission voted and recommended approval of this action as a 5-to-1 vote. That's what I had thought. And with a stipulation that he provide at least 5 customer parking spots and complies with other village-mentioned ordinances and too. So, yeah, that's where it stood at the time.
Right, and the other difficulties are, he's not going to get a curb cut off of Cicero Avenue.
No.
And so the present curb cut is going to be for the driveway for the house that he's going to knock down. And then he's going to provide customer parking 5 spots. At present, the customer parking is largely on the street. We all know that he was using the church lot, and quite frankly, he was storing vehicles in the church lot. There was dump trucks that were parked there for months at a time. All these things were unlicensed, unlawfully stored there. The church parking lot wasn't set to store vehicles.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm totally in agreement. Like I said, I've got a responsibility to ask the question when a business asks us. That's certainly why I'm bringing it to you folks tonight.
So, I'm sorry, Mayor, did you want a consensus?
Yeah, could you just do a
poll
consensus poll, please? Yeah, just so I can report back
to rezone 4735 West 122nd
Yes.
Street?
Right.
Okay. And again, this is just a consensus poll.
That's all. Let's just see if we want to bring it to them.
Dalzell.
No.
Trustee Zelinski.
No.
Trustee Juarez.
No.
Trustee McLaughlin is absent this evening. Trustee Murphy.
No.
Trustee Navis-Barza.
No.
The consensus is not to bring it before the board.
That's fine. And thank you very much. Like I said, I've got a responsibility to businesses to bring this kind of thing up yet, too.
And Mayor, this board isn't anti-business.
No, absolutely not.
Whatever
Right.
they can do, I apologize for speaking for the board.
No.
If he had a business proposal or something else, but rather than just, hey, by the way, I think we're due more information. So if he truly wants it to be reconsidered, he should make it a proposal, not just I tried it a little while ago. What about now?
And I don't know that the argument, the conversation, I don't want to speak for him, but I don't know that anything's different than what it was before. I mean, it's the same proposal, and I think Becky, if I'm right, because you spoke with him, he just said that the house was available again, he doesn't have a renter, and he wanted to take advantage of possibly looking to relocate the office, right?
Right. He said he talked with the church and they're all on board with it. He wants to make it look nicer off the Cicero.
Yeah.
He'll do whatever the board suggests.
I get it. I've always been a proponent of still wanting, your office on your property, to conduct your office there, because much like one of the residents said, I didn't buy my house to know that the guy next door is bringing people in and out and all that kind of thing then, too. And you got to be fair to everybody over there. And we're very pro-business around here. But, again, this is where the board decides policy. And as Trustee Dalzell said, we've had situations like that where the Planning and Zoning Commission, which we definitely appreciate their engagement with business to give us some guidance on what's good for the community. We ultimately have final say, and that's why I bring it to everybody tonight. So,
Mayor, can you refresh my memory? I thought, didn't he also own the home directly south of that property as well? Did he own both homes?
he might, yeah, because I know there was some issues with tall grass and stuff like that, but they might both be rental properties of some type like that, yeah. But I think
Because
it's only
that
the
was his
corner house that
argument
he's looking at.
for not being right on top of another residence, but what's he going to do with that other residence if he does get the approval, so,
Right.
right, so, thank you.
Okay. Next I had on here was the, about a week ago, they did, the IML sent, maybe most of you might have seen this in an email, Sangamon County Judge Raylene Grishchow ruled in favor of the Illinois Municipal League's request and its members, stating that the ambiguity existed in the state's enactment of a law to close all government offices. The declaratory judgment establishes that the mandate to close government offices on Election Day does not apply to municipalities. The decision gives each municipality the independent discretion to determine if their offices should or should not be closed on Election Day. The Attorney General's office has not indicated whether they will appeal the declaratory judgment or seek a stay pending on the outcome of an appeal. While municipalities have some additional support for remaining open on November 3rd, 2020, the outcome of an appeal may undermine the benefit of today's decision. The Illinois Municipal League will keep members informed of all status or subsequent legal action. Today's decision is a victory for the protection of local authority and eliminated a potential unfunded mandate on municipalities. The decision is also recognition of the role of the Illinois Municipal League fulfills on behalf of its members, advocating for local authority against state mandates. Municipal officials must be able to make decisions that are appropriate for their community. Today's court order gives each municipality the independent discretion to determine if their offices should or should not be closed on Election Day, November 3rd, 2020. Now, I had brought this up a couple times recently, and certainly, again, this is where a board comes into play too, is we don't have a budget that allows for an extra day off here, but it's still the board's discretion as to whether or not you want to be closed on Election Day. That's what the court is saying. So while we don't have this on an agenda for a vote, certainly this is a committee meeting right now. We can certainly call for a vote if necessary. Did anyone wish to take this to a vote to be closed on Election Day? I think we might even, it'd be fair to poll them on that too, just to be sure.
So you would like a consensus to close the village offices on Election Day?
A consensus on whether or not to close the office on Election Day, yes. Or to take a vote to do so, let's put it that way. That'd probably be the way to ask the question.
Okay, so a consensus whether we should close the village offices on Election Day?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Dalzell, consensus to close the village offices on Consensus Day, yes or no, please?
No change, no.
No. Trustee Zelinski.
No.
Trustee Juarez.
No.
Trustee McLaughlin is absent. Trustee Murphy.
No.
And Trustee Navis Barza.
No.
So no consensus to close the village offices on Election Day.
Understood. Thank you very much. Again, just to confirm, next Saturday, we've had this out. Actually, Becky, is our newsletter going to be out this week?
Yes.
It will. Okay. So everyone will be getting the newsletters this week. It's done very well. Everyone's going to enjoy this newsletter. All departments did a nice job. All you guys did. Thank you very much. Halloween hours, again, just to reiterate, is from 1 till 6 on Saturday. And again, looking forward to a great day that day. Hopefully the weather holds up really well then, too. And then we had, number 1 on my agenda was a discussion regarding engine idling. I handed everybody some information on that at the beginning of the meeting. We had a resident, I'm not sure, Is
Not here.
Michael, is he a resident? I don't know.
He has not provided his address on the login sheet. He has
He
just
always puts his phone
provided
number.
his phone number.
Okay, I didn't know. All right. Anyway, we had a person that, Michael, what's his last name?
Joniak.
Mr. Joniak came in a couple of times and was concerned about the engine idling and obviously the emissions that are expelled from engine idling. And I did pull up the Illinois compiled statute on engine idling, and really, all it really said here too was unattended motor vehicles, no person driving or in charge of a motor vehicle shall permit it to stand unattended without first stopping the engine, locking the engine and so forth, and effectively setting the park brake and so forth. When you're not using a car, it should be turned off. As far as idling is concerned of motor vehicles, it shall be unlawful for any person to cause or permit the operation of an engine, of a main engine of any motor vehicle when parked or standing, except for the following. In other words, if you're engaged in any kind of a rescue operation, whenever you're engaged in the main powertrain of an essential basic function. Sometimes trucks do that with having PTOs and so forth that are on dump trucks or cement trucks. And then C, I highlighted this for the board. Whenever weather conditions justify the use of having to use the heat or the air conditioning system in a car or a truck for the welfare and safety of the occupants or future passengers in the case of public vehicles stopped in a turnaround or other such waiting areas, or such low temperatures prevail that the startup of a public conveyance or service vehicle might not otherwise be feasible. So I really believe this is all kind of discretionary. I know sometimes when we see signs that say, and that's why I put one of these on here, no idling, please turn off your engines, are warranted in certain applications. But I believe, I don't know, I haven't seen any. Maybe Trustee Dalzell, if I can defer to you when you're with the police department here, did you put up many of these signs around town?
Never.
Okay. And Mr. Frater, with Public Works, do you know if we ever installed any no idling signs throughout town? Seems like kind of a discretionary act is what I'm getting at yet too. So I can appreciate Mr. Joniak's thoughts on the matter. You know, certainly, you know, that's important to everybody is our environment. Was anyone in favor of doing something like this or imposing this on any? Because you do it for one. You can't just identify one business. It goes for everybody type of thing, you know?
I was just a little unclear as to the Walgreens end of it, where he was discussing, and I probably should have asked, that the idling at Walgreens, which he was making a point of, could it be possible that he was referring to the drive-through at the Walgreens and the cars that are backed up there idling, waiting to get their prescription or their whatever it is that they get from the window? Probably,
Unless, like anything else, your friend or significant other ran in the store for something, you're sitting out in the parking lot with the motor running, you know, so.
There's on private property, the village has limited enforcement capabilities anyhow. Unless we have a private property enforcement agreement with a property owner, there's very little statutes that apply to private property. So engine idling, I can appreciate that obviously he's got a passion for this, but I'm not convinced that there is a problem. What the frequency of the problem is, the duration of the problem, the volume that it involves in this. So he's the only one who's brought it to the attention of the board. You've already done the research. It's things that we talked about just last year with the idling of the trucks.
Right.
So it's not that it's unfamiliar territory. And the state statute specifically is for unattended motor vehicles.
It's true. And that's why I highlighted the one with occupants yet too. So
Right.
certainly, I just wanted to share with the board and the public, Mr. Joniak's brought this to our attention, that we did take a look at this, and I don't see necessary to take action at this time, and especially as Trustee Dalzell just pointed out, in more cases than not, this is already going to be on private property, and it's at the discretion of the property owner to do this, not necessarily the board or the village to intervene in how they operate their property yet too. So. And the last thing on here too is drivers may idle for 30 minutes in any 60-minute period while they're waiting to load or unload freight, and we were familiar with that. There's no limit if the temperature is less than 32 degrees or greater than 80 degrees yet then either. So that was the issue we had with the trucks last season yet too. Next on the list, I had the request for approval of a resolution authorizing a master pole attachment agreement between the Village of Alsip and Chicago SMSA Limited Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless, relating to the collection of small wireless facilities. So again, this is one of the small pole agreements, and I was told, I know we approved one of these once before, each carrier has to ask for these individually. So we did one not too long ago, I think it might have been Sprint, or I'm not sure, but it was one of the other companies that do small wireless, and this one is just being requested through Verizon, and I'm told through the state you can't really even deny them, but you have to acknowledge what they're doing. So that's why this is on here tonight. And that's all I had. Sorry to take up so much time. Clerk's report.
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Presentation of the September 2020 IDOT motor fuel tax allotment in the amount of $61,776.84. And then we have presentation and approval of two sets of committee meeting minutes from November 12th, 2019 and November 25th, 2019. And that is all I have, Mayor Ryan.
All right.
I have a question. Why are we just approving minutes from 2019?
Glad you asked.
Don't we have like a date that there need to be?
Yes, there are date guidelines. You weren't present when we took over a couple years ago. There used to be a total of 4 people in the clerk's office, 3 full-time and 2 part-time. One of those full-time people was charged with doing the agendas and the packets and the minutes and all the FOIAs. That person had since left, so we are structured as 3 full-time people and a half supervisor in the office that takes care of the clerks in the building and the water. We were short a deputy collector last year, almost 9 months, due to medical reasons. So shift of work took place. This year alone, we have been short almost 6 months between illnesses and births and COVID reasons outside of vacation. We had a new person start last September, and last October, prior to the mayor even talking about cross-training between departments, we'd started cross-training in the clerk's office for somebody to handle minutes, etc. It's a matter of priorities were given to support the functions in the offices while people were out.
Well, I mean, it's a year, almost a year, right, later. And as a government entity, a public entity, we do have an obligation to be in compliance with Open Meetings Act, right?
I understand.
And for us to, well, my concern is that is if information is being circulated out in the public realm and there's no ability for members of the public to fact check anything that's said, that's also a concern. And then November 12th, how many meetings are we behind, or how many are missing that still need to be approved?
To your point about records out there, all the meetings are videotaped as well as audio taped, and those are put up within a day or two, so there is the capability of doing that.
But if someone has ADA constrictions where they have, visual, they can't hear or see, they rely on those minutes.
Well, the minutes are
impairments.
posted on the website just as the same as the video and the audio. They are concentrating on doing those now. I have board meeting minutes that will be on the agenda for next week, and I will discuss with the office supervisor what the goal is and a timeline to catch up on the rest of them. Just for information purposes, every meeting, whether it's an hour or 2 hours, it takes at least double the time to transcribe, especially when things are presented at a committee meeting that didn't make it into the packet and there's nothing that we can review to reference. So it does take some time to transcribe the minute meetings, and they are doing their best to concentrate on that, and I will have a date of when they feel they can be completely caught up next week for you.
Could we also have a number of how many minutes are missing? Like, are they 10 dates or 5 dates, or?
The board meetings for last year are completed with the exception of a special board meeting. The board meetings for this year were done through June, and I have the remainder of them that I was just given to do those. And the committee meetings are the ones that are the most difficult and that are behind.
So that's about, what, 10 meetings or,
The committee meetings would be for 2020.
but total number of meetings that are, still need to be approved by the board?
Including today's would be 16 for committee meetings.
A few weeks ago, I remember we had a committee meeting, it never got to board, but you had brought up, I think trustee Murphy asked about it. You had a committee meeting that you were asking to be approved from May of 19 and October of 19. Whatever happened to those?
They're posted on the website already. Those were
We never approved them.
Yeah, they were approved, they were discussed and approved at that committee meeting.
No, they weren't. Actually, that's what trustee Murphy asked about it. It never made it to board.
The attorney had advised us probably a year and a half ago that the committee meeting minutes were to be presented and approved at committee meeting, and the board meeting minutes were to be presented and approved at board meetings.
Oh,
And that's the way it's been done for better than a year and a half, and that was Joe Kankar, the one that had advised us that that was the way it should have been done.
But we don't vote on anything at a committee meeting.
That was the direction we were given by the attorney.
Otherwise, we could be voting tonight on this. We're not voting on anything here.
Again, that was the direction that we were given by the attorney.
Well, then I guess I would dispute putting those up because the board never approved those committee meetings that you just mentioned. Those were brought up just a few weeks ago, and I know we never voted on them.
That has been the consent, that's the way it's been done
Okay,
both for
so
committees and boards.
Then
for some
in all
time.
fairness, why don't you produce what we voted on then? Where did we vote on that?
Again, Mayor, that was the direction that the attorney gave us, so that's how we have been doing them, is presenting them, showing them as presentation and approval.
Presentation and approval of committee meeting
Correct, that is what the attorney...
without physically voting on them?
That was the direction that the attorney gave us. If you want, I'll go back
Yeah.
and find the information from Joe Kankar.
I've never heard of such a thing. Every time we've always voted on
That
something.
initially, when I took office 3 years ago, it was presented committee and a board. And Mr. Kankar had said committee meeting minutes should be presented and approved at committee, and board meeting minutes should be presented and approved at the board meeting.
Well, if it was presented, like, let's just say, again, you're presenting this evening, and I don't hear any vote taking place. In other words, if somebody wanted to have a discrepancy of any type, there's no dialogue going on, there's nothing, and it's like, again, you're asking us to approve, as the trustee Navas-Barza just pointed out, you're asking to go back and look at something that's almost 11 months old, and me personally, I don't remember what happened 11 months ago. I'd have to really read and probably watch the video all over again in order to really put my signature on that. I'd have to know that that's what was said at the meeting and so forth. So I think I don't want to speak for you, trustee, but for me anyway, I'd have to be really sure about what's going on. And I do know that the statute is supposed to be on meeting minutes. It's supposed to be 30 days after a meeting is when these get posted. So, as you said, it's nice that we've got the ability to use video and stuff like that, but if for any reason you didn't have that kind of access, then it's got to be in hard paper form, that kind of thing, yeah, too. So.
Well, that's my concern, is that being in compliance, it is our responsibility, again, as a government entity, to make sure we're not in violation of the Open Meetings Act, and you had mentioned it's 30 days. And I understand that there's things that happen that might push us back a little on certain deadlines, maybe 10, 15 days or a month, but it's November 12th, 2019. It's almost a year.
I will email Mr. Kankar and copy you on the email, Mayor.
All right, that's fine.
When K-Car gave that direction, was it during a meeting? Or was it in an email that you guys had between each other?
I believe it was during a meeting or right before a meeting or after a meeting, but I will send an email to Joe Kankar before I leave this evening and copy the mayor on it and ask him for guidance regarding.
So if indeed that K-Car gave that direction, she was supposed to follow that direction, right? Not, yes or no?
I believe state statute trumps whatever it's supposed to be. I just know that, all board committee meetings, meetings that are public meetings, have to be posted 30 days after the meeting takes place. That's what I'm citing. You know, the attorney is an advisory source, so we'll take a look. You know, let's see, we'll see what Mr. Kankar had to say about that.
Mayor, were you aware or not aware of the understaffing or of the clerk's office during this time?
The clerk's office is managed, is actually segregated from the mayor's office. I oversee the operation of the village hall. It's the clerk's purview to oversee her office.
Well, she's just another department head. Don't you oversee all the department heads?
Certainly, pardon me?
Elected officials.
Yeah, exactly, non-elected official.
I mean, we give interns to Public Works, we give interns to Finance, we give interns to multiple other, I know the Water Department, for help all during the summer, every year. And you don't think we could have maybe helped them out if they were falling behind? I mean, it would only make sense.
Again, when department heads need help, like when they come in here and they ask for interns or summer help, we sit here as a board and we qualify if that's necessary or not, and you folks are the ones that approve that.
Well, I understand. I mean, it just never came up to us, but...
Then I'm in the same boat as you are. Then, it didn't come to
Well,
me,
not
so I wouldn't have took action on it.
every day.
You
We're
are here
not,
daily
but-
to know what's going on. We're not here daily.
I have never, in 3 years, have ever walked in the clerk's office and told them how to do their job and evaluated them on their performance. That's the clerk's responsibility. I oversee
Also,
the
maybe
department. Pardon me?
Maybe we can just get her someone to help out here if she's needed.
Well, again, you're talking right now about closing a gap that's over, even those other ones that we just saw, those were almost 15 months old. So again, for us to actually approve something like this, I mean, the board can do what they want, but there's going to be a lot of reading involved. And as the clerk said, just to get these minutes done are going to take some time. You're out significant amount of meetings, and there's a lot of work to be done at the same time now then too. So again, I'm here just like you folks are. I have department head meetings every month and so forth, and if it wasn't asked, if the request for additional help wasn't made a year and a half ago, it wasn't made. So to sit here now and actually suggest that maybe it's somebody else's fault, that kind of thing, too, I think it's really pretty much
I am
unfair,
not saying it's anybody else's fault. Don't put words into my mouth.
I'm not, I'm just saying.
I'm simply saying that when a department needs help, it usually comes to our attention and we offer
Sure.
assistance. That's all I was suggesting. So
No,
please
I'm-
keep it what it was.
I get it. I'm here with you, and if somebody asked, then certainly we would listen. All right, Clark, anything else?
No, that is all, Mayor Ryan.
Public forum, did anyone in the audience wish to address the board this evening? Nobody? Then we'll go to standing committee reports. Finance and IT Committee. It'd be, all
Presentation of list of payroll and accounts payable. That's all, Mayor.
right, thank you. Fire Committee, Trustee Murphy.
No report, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Actually, Chief Miller wanted to participate. He's not available to be here. I told him I'd put him on a speakerphone. He doesn't have the capability of doing Zoom. So give me 1 second. Let me get Chief Miller on the phone for police and traffic safety.
Chief will talk to the request to have the village attorney draft an ordinance increasing the compensation of the community service officers from $12.50 an hour to $15 an hour. This was discussed at the February
Chief.
3rd
Oh.
Finance Committee meeting.
Hey, Chief, sorry to get you so late. Our meeting was running a little bit long. Trustee Dalzell just introduced what you had on your agenda with regarding the request for the village attorney to draft an ordinance regarding the salary adjustment for the community service officers. I got you on my speakerphone, so I'll let you speak to it, okay?
Okay, this was initially discussed at the budget hearing, and we kind of lost track of it because their raises are done through a separate ordinance based upon everything that I could find in the history of them. So I just had a brief summary of what they are and stuff like that I can go over. We currently have 3 CSOs. By contract, we're allowed 6. They make $12.50 an hour. They've been at that rate since about 2014. We spend about 8 to 12 weeks training them, so retention of the personnel is important to us. It's a pipeline for our police department. We typically hire people who are aspiring to have a career in law enforcement. We've had 3 former CSOs to date join the ranks of the Alsip Police Department. Most recently was Heather Fain, who's in the academy now. They have 3 primary functions. First and foremost is they keep our police officers available to do police work. They sit on stalled cars, direct traffic at accidents, help in booking. They come out during storms, get cars out off the street for plows. They do traffic control during power outages, things of that nature. All these things are important to our community, but should not tie up a highly trained police officer for those duties. They keep our police officers doing things only a police officer can do, like responding to crimes in progress, traffic stops, preventative patrols. Their second primary function is community policing and community caretaking. They take care of things like abandoned autos, businesses who don't maintain lighting, the storage of junk or trash on private property. Everyone's favorite, lawn and grass, parking enforcement. They assist the crime prevention program and the crime-free housing program, and they participate in many community events. And the third primary function is they assist the services unit. They take cars in for service, make deliveries for department business, move furniture, reorganize offices, assist in the evidence vault, clean and maintain the police garage. As I said earlier, we discussed this at the budget hearing. I initially recommended going from $12.50 to $14.50 after 6 months. It was the consensus of the board at that time to just make it a flat $15 an hour. This was budgeted for this year. And in closing, I just wanted to let you know that with this increase, we are not only hoping to be more competitive in the market to attract quality candidates, but we want to keep and reward the deserving people that we already have. I don't know if anyone had any specific questions.
The board have any questions for the chief? Jay, I know you guys do a great job, and I thought that was, I've seen a couple of your previous prospects that they start off as CSOs and actually became officers for us then too, either here and I think in one case they might have went someplace else, but just like you said just recently, Heather Fain just became an officer. She's at the academy now. And
as well as Paul Michaelajczyk and Brian McIntyre. Brian's been here for several years now.
I didn't know that. Okay. Well, that's great. That's always good news to hear then too, because obviously you fellows do a great job training these folks at the same time to help obviously your department and the community at the same time. Trustee Dalzell, I know you're chair. Anything you wanted to add to this then too?
No. The agency that I work for, we have a similar circumstance as I'm sure all police departments do. And when you recruit people, the amount of time that you spend recruiting, hiring, doing the background, training, developing them, The retention is huge, and they do a great service for the community, as the chief already pointed out, and I'm sure that he abbreviated that list that they perform. So it only makes sense that you're going to spend more than this dollar amount difference if you continue to lose people. So it's money well spent.
And again, Chief Miller, the hours for each officer is about, what, 30 a week?
They typically average between 24 and 26 hours a week.
Okay.
We just try and keep them between those hours unless there's something significant going on.
Okay. Well, certainly, we'll place it, I'll ask the chair to, Trustee Dalzell, to place this on the agenda then for next week then, Chief, okay?
And
Sounds good, thank you.
if we can do that as an amendment to the current salary ordinance, so we don't continue to miss this.
Understood, that's fine.
Thank you.
All right, that's what we'll do then, Chief. I'll have the attorney amend our current salary ordinance, and that's what's going to be on the agenda, just so you understand where it's at, okay?
Okay.
And then, did you want to speak to the vehicle at the same time?
Yeah, that would be fine. I submitted a request to purchase a 2020 Ford F-150 pursuit-rated police responder through Merrill Brothers. It is a state bid purchase. We did solicit other bids from Curry, Terry's, and Sutton Ford. However, they don't have any police vehicles in stock, and they don't anticipate getting any more until fall of 2021. So being that Merrill Brothers was a state bid, I submitted that bid for your approval. They actually do have the vehicle in stock. We were fortunate enough that they had one extra one come in that was not accounted for or paid for by another police department. So we asked them to hold it for us until the end of the week.
And Chief, you and I talked earlier today. You said that this was, we do have this included in our budget this season?
That is correct. We reduced our budget this year from 4 vehicles or 3 vehicles down to just 1. So this would be the one.
Okay. And I'm looking at the email from Lieutenant Emick, and what you said, that the situation regarding this is that we've got 3 vehicles that currently are out of service as well. We still have that 2018 is still smashed up in the back because that's evidence from a criminal case. And number 1703 was totaled out. I know a resident hit that, or somebody hit that recently. And 1402 needs a front end and transmission. So you're down a few vehicles at the same time.
Yes, correct. We've that one that's being held as evidence. It's unfortunate, but it only had less than 5,000 miles on it. So that one hurts a lot because that kind of put us in a bad spot as far as our rotation and stuff goes.
I know you and I talk about it all the time. I can't believe the insurance company won't let us fix that darn thing. It's brand new, but it's evidence, and they won't let us do it, huh?
Yeah, until we have the case disposed of, either in a criminal court, which the next time it's up is in December. They want us just to hold on to that, the attorneys and stuff.
All right. And the chief and I had talked earlier, and again, trustees, what you're looking at here is a 2020 vehicle, not a 21 or anything like that. So we are working with something that's available, and that was appropriated for through our budget yet too. So the police department did a great job reducing their spending this year, but the chief reminded me this one's in there. And then, Chief, did we get the settlement yet on that other car that was on the number 1703 that was totaled out? Did we get a settlement on that yet from the insurance company?
We checked with Human Resources. They have not gotten the check yet.
Because we were
from that one.
So are we going to use this money toward this, or is this toward, like we were talking about, maybe even picking up a used car in its place? What would you want to do with that?
Once that money comes in, we may look at something used to replace one of the detective cars that's coming up on 100,000 miles.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Anybody else have a question for Chief Miller? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Chief, and I'll talk with you tomorrow.
Okay. If anyone comes up with anything during the week, just shoot me an email.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
That's all for the committee, Mayor.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yeah.
You said you were going to ask the attorney to amend this ordinance?
The salary ordinance.
I thought just recently we had a discussion, and you said that if it was something that we just had to change a number, we wouldn't need an attorney for it. We could just switch
do that.
switch
No,
the
we
number.
we can change the number.
Well, then I would
It's true,
suggest that we
yeah.
actually do that so we
Yeah.
could save on attorney fees.
Yes, no, we can do it. We're just fixing a number.
Yeah, good idea.
And as I said before, I'm just being overly thorough, I guess. All I'm saying is that the only time you really send something to an attorney is if you want to make sure it's constitutionally correct, and we know that through our salary ordinance.
Well,
already,
even
so.
in on the request here, it was for him to draft an ordinance. I didn't know if you were going to change anything else besides just that one.
This was a separate ordinance, I think that, and my desire was to make sure that it was on that, so that in future, we're always looking at it, addressing it if need be, but at least it's present so we don't oversight.
We don't have one already for the 1250, though?
You know, I've never seen one. I assume it's someplace,
Okay.
but I think it's most appropriate in the most recent salary ordinance that we just went and did. So, like you suggest, great idea. I think just add that to it with the dollar amount in.
All right, thank you. Next, the public work and boat launch, trustee Juarez.
We
All I
already-
have,
We already did that.
you know, but
Oh,
I
you-
have, next week going out to be, an ordinance approval for the surplus of items to go to auction. That's gonna be on next week's,
Yeah, what I was telling the trustee, what I shared with all the trustees earlier today was our attorney, Mike Kankar, sent me an ordinance. You need an ordinance when you're disposing of equipment. We didn't have that. So trustee Juarez spoke to it last week, but we didn't have an ordinance. I just asked her, just bring it up so you folks knew what that was coming next week.
And that was for 4 vehicles, correct?
Yeah. Right. Sewer and water, trustee Nava Esparza.
Thank you. I have the presentation of the Sewer and Water Department September 2020 monthly activity report. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Building and health, trustee Zelinski.
No report for building and health tonight, Mayor.
All right. Human resource and insurance, trustee Murphy.
No report, Mayor.
Okay. Special committee reports, economic development, trustee Nava Esparza.
Just announcement, the Small Business Administration announced that November 28th is Small Business Saturday. And now even just with the updates that the mayor provided with the resurgence mitigations due to COVID, I think it's more important now than ever to support small businesses, but also local businesses in Alsip. So again, Small Business Saturday is November 28th. That's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Village Properties Committee.
Would be the trustee Juarez or trustee Nava Esparza.
no report.
Okay. Ordinance legislation, trustee Zelinski.
There's no report, Mayor.
Okay. Planning and zoning and licenses, trustee Juarez.
I have a presentation of the list of licenses dated October 13, 2020 through October 23, 2020. And I also have a request for approval of a resolution of the Village of Alsip approving the Barton re-subdivision of real property located at 11638 through 11658 South Pulaski Road, Alsip, Illinois. That's all.
Okay. I put that on there. I actually met with the Planning and Zoning Commission last Wednesday, and myself and Roger Early spoke to them about, this is the property where Firewater Barbecue and Brew is going to build. They want to start construction next month, and we have the title commitments on it, but we have to do a title change right now, so we're consolidating 3 pins into one, so they have one tax bill, not 3, to pay on, and that's basically what I'm identifying with a special board meeting, just to ask the board to for their approval on that this evening, so that we can report that back to them tomorrow, so they can keep everything moving, because even a week makes a difference. They're trying to fund this account right now to start construction. Did anyone have any presentations, petitions, or communications about any? Sue, can you hit the sound again?
Hang on 1 second, I'm just trying to shut this down.
We were a little concerned yesterday when stopping by your place, and all the cars are there and nobody's around, you know,
And the
like,
boat was missing?
well, you know, I'm thinking right away, maybe somebody don't have a CO detector or something like that, you know, so. We were not, I said, man, even the dog isn't barking, I mean, come on, you know?
Whenever you're ready.
I'm sorry, I didn't know it was on.
That's okay.
I thought I heard it somewhere, okay.
Motion to adjourn.
I'm sorry, trustee Delzell made a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Our regular meeting, this will be at 9:21 PM. All in favor?
We had adjourned to closed session.
Right.
We're already out. We're out of closed session.
We came out of closed session at
Correct.
9:20.
We had adjourned the committee meeting to closed session, so we didn't need to adjourn.
okay.
But we
Okay.
need to call the special board meeting to
Right.
order.
So, next,
Oh,
what's that?
I locked it away.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, again.
Is everything open?
No, trustee, could you unlock that, please? It's still open out there, right? Out in the hall?
I opened the door.
Oh, okay.
I didn't notice when anyone outside.
Okay, thank you. All right, then, I'd like to call this next meeting, this is a Village of Alsip special board meeting of trustees. Today is October 26, 2020, and can you call the roll, please?
Call the meeting to order at what time, Mayor?
Why don't we call this meeting order at 9:23?
Thank you, Mayor. Trustee Delzell.
Here.
Trustee Zelinski.
Here.
Trustee Juarez.
Here.
Trustee McLaughlin is absent. Trustee Murphy.
Here.
Trustee Navas-Sparza.
Here.
Mayor Ryan.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'm going to waive the Pledge of Allegiance. We did so at our earlier committee meeting. This is our special board meeting, and unfortunately, we don't have any members of the public here to speak as far as public forum is concerned. This took place after our regular committee meeting. So I'd like to move right to the special committees, the Planning and Zoning and Licenses. Trustee Juarez, did you want to introduce us, please?
I have an approval of a resolution of the Village of Alsip approving the Barton re-subdivision of real property located at 11638-11658 South Paskey Road, Alsip, Illinois.
Thank you very much. And again, just as a recap, trustees, this is to consolidate 3 pins to 1 for the new construction to take place at 11638 to 58 South Pulaski. We actually named this the Barton subdivision because of the developer known as Barton Holdings is the name. So, and again, we appreciate their interest and investment in our community, and we're looking forward to a nice development starting at this location. Did anyone wish to remove this item from the agenda for any reason? Then can I get a motion, please, to establish the consent agenda?
Moved.
Second.
Roll call number 1 to establish the consent agenda, trustee Dalzell.
Yes.
Trustee Zelinski.
Yes.
Trustee Juarez.
Yes.
Trustee McLaughlin is absent this evening. Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Nava Esparza.
Yes.
Motion carries to establish the consent agenda.
Then can I get a motion then to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call number 2 to approve the consent agenda. Trustee Dalzell.
Yes.
Trustee Zelinski.
Yes.
Trustee Juarez.
Yes.
Trustee McLaughlin is absent. Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Nava Esparza.
Yes.
Motion carries to approve the consent agenda. This will be approval of a resolution of the Village of Alsip approving the Barton re-subdivision of real property located at 11638-11658 South Pulaski Road, Alsip, Illinois, will become Resolution 2020-10-R-1.
Okay. Did anyone have any unfinished business? Trustees, as a reminder, we're in a closed session earlier this evening. Please keep all content of that closed session confidential, please. It's very important to our community, and especially to our board. Next, and did anyone have any new business? Then can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks. Have a great evening. We'll adjourn this meeting at 9:26 p.m.